What's up everyone? In today's video, we're going to be talking about how big of an impact the new Tesla Model Y, the Tesla pickup truck, the Tesla Semi, and the Tesla Roadster will have on Tesla as a company and their stock. Should be a very fun video. I hope you guys enjoy this. If you do, don't forget to hit the like button as it really helps support the channel. But with all of that said, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back guys, my name is Ale and this is my world of stocks. Okay, let's go ahead and kick things off with the Model Y and let's take a closer look. Now the Model Y is their upcoming crossover SUV that is meant to be a smaller and more affordable option to their bigger and more expensive Model X fuller size SUV that can seat up to 7 people. In fact, the Model Y is actually built on the Model 3 platform and will therefore share over 75% of the same parts when production begins in the second half of next year. Currently, the purchase price for the cheapest version of the Model X runs for about $85,000, and that increases to north of $100,000 if you opt in for the Performance Edition. On the other hand, the Model Y already runs for less than $50,000 to start, and there's an even cheaper lower range edition that will release a year later that was previously announced to only cost less than $40,000, although it's been a little while since we've received any updates on that specific model. In any case, there's plenty of reasons to think that the Model Y can and will sell very well given the much larger market size than the Model 3, which is already in the top 10 best-selling cars list in America, even though the Model 3 should really be considered a more expensive luxury sedan, which, by the way, it completely destroys all luxury car makers even if you combine their different models together, and this is at a time when electric vehicles only make up around 2% of the market to begin with. But when looking at the potential of the Model Y, well, here in the United States, crossovers make up nearly 40% of the market, while SUVs add another 8% depending on how you look at it. Either way, crossovers completely eclipse any potential market size for the Model 3, which is maybe the mid-size sedan market since it does have 4 doors, but that's only around 11%. And even if you think of the Model 3 as more of a compact or kind of small car, even if you combine the market size of the mid-size with the compact and even the luxury car segments, you're still well below the crossover segment all on its own. Either way, the Model Y should have a much bigger audience. And even if we look internationally, the story is pretty much the same, as SUVs make up over 36%. This report doesn't specify crossovers, but I think it's safe to assume that they would make up the vast majority, since internationally smaller sized vehicles tend to perform better. So because of the bigger market size and because of the fact that the Model Y will have higher average selling prices compared to the Model 3, yet it'll still be sharing about 75% of the same parts, I think it will have significantly better margins, and it will not only help supply Tesla with higher revenues, but I think it'll also help them improve their profitability as well. So all of that, I think in turn will help support Tesla's stock over the long term as well. Okay, so that was the Model Y crossover SUV. Now let's go ahead and transition to the Tesla pickup truck and take a closer look at that one. Well, we are still waiting for a full unveiling, but what we know so far is that it's going to look really futuristic, as Elon Musk has previously stated that it's going to have a lot of titanium and it's going to look like a Blade Runner futuristic pickup truck. He says it'll be amazing and heart-stopping, and has even gone as far as to say that it's the coolest car that he's ever seen. And speaking a little further to the looks of the truck, back in March we received the only image that has ever been given of the pickup, and as you might expect, it pretty much reveals nothing, as the image is very vague and dark and doesn't clarify whether it's the front, back, or any other side of the truck. Needless to say, speculation has been running wild, and I think a lot of shareholders are worried that it's going to be a very ugly design, but there's 2 points to address here. Number one is that Elon mentioned back at their Investors Day that if worst case scenario nobody likes the truck's design and it doesn't sell well, then they'll just make a more conventional looking truck to make up for it. I'm hoping that's not necessary because it'll delay the positive impact, but it's good to know that Tesla is willing to take some risks on designs to make some products that really stand out and catch attention, but are also willing to adjust if the market rejects it. And number two is that I've seen a lot of conceptual renders out there, and there are some that actually look very nice, like the ones that I'm showing you on the screen right now. So if Tesla is able to come out with something similar to one of these renders, I could actually see it being very well received. Not to mention that the Tesla truck can potentially have two flatbeds, one that is covered in the front and one that is open in the back. And technically the one in the back could also be covered. Maybe the one in the front could be open. I don't know. But my point is that it adds a whole kind of another level of functionality, since you get two kind of flatbeds in the front and in the back versus only one in the back for traditional kind of ICE trucks. And that leads me to performance, which Elon Musk has hinted towards on several occasions, that it will be a better performing truck than the Ford F-150, which has been the best selling truck for decades, and has even gone as far as to say that it will be a better sports car than the Porsche 911, which starts at over $100,000. The Tesla pickup, however, is aiming to start at less than $50,000. Now, the Ford F-150 does technically start at less than $30,000, but depending on the features that you get, they can easily run up to the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and even $60,000 ranges. Chevy trucks can also hover around similar price ranges, but all of this is ignoring the fact that there is no true competitor out in the market yet, other than plans from Ford to release an electric F-150 in the future, but we have no idea when that'll be, and the only company that seems to be close to releasing an actual electric pickup truck right now is a company, a startup company that is called Rivian. Now, they plan to release an electric pickup truck at the end of next year for about $70,000, but despite the fact that it will probably be the first to market, I still don't really see it as a major threat for Tesla for a couple of reasons. Number one is that I know that this is going to sound very biased coming from a Tesla shareholder, but if I'm being honest, the Rivian truck just looks super plain and ugly to me. And granted, the Tesla could end up looking really ugly too, but if it's actually attractive, then I can't imagine a world where people spend around $20,000 more to get the Rivian instead of a brand new Tesla. And that's basically my second argument, which is that I can't envision a scenario where people are willing to spend more money for what will likely be an inferior product, considering the huge lead that Tesla holds on performance, autonomous driving, and charging infrastructure. In my opinion, we've gotten to the point where if you're going to buy an electric vehicle, I can't really see a logical reason for you to buy anything other than a Tesla. Now, where I do think that Rivian can actually get like a little bit of a boost in sales is again by being the first to market, as the Tesla pickup truck hasn't been fully unveiled yet. But a recent tweet from Elon Musk suggests that they will be unveiling the truck in November and probably open pre-orders around that time. Granted, we could still be a year or more away from actually seeing the Tesla pickup hit the road, but either way, I think it will sell pretty well when it finally does release. Now, internationally, the truck is not likely to sell very high, given that places like Europe and Asia are much more likely to prefer smaller vehicles like the Model Y or the Model 3 to drive on the smaller roads and in smaller spaces. So when looking at that market, pickups only make up around 6% of the global market. So that's not really a big market to tap into. However, here in the United States, the pickup has potential to sell extremely well, as they make up the second largest segment at around 17% of sales. And by the way, most of that is just the F-150 alone. So if Tesla comes out and really hammers the point across that the Tesla is a better vehicle than the Ford F-150, and they're able to convert many of those people, then we could potentially see sales explode. Time will tell how all of this plays out. I think right now the Model Y is what's going to really be driving sales, at least kind of in the near future. However, if the pickup truck looks nice and it has strong performance and great functionality, and it still costs less than 50 grand, then I think there's a lot of potential for it to do very well, especially here in the United States. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of ways that Tesla can absolutely mess this up if things go wrong, and it kind of scares me as an investor myself. But we'll just really have to wait a couple months to see the unveiling and get a better idea of how all of this is going to play out. Anyway, that does it for the pickup truck. Now let's transition to the Tesla Semi, and let's take a closer look at that one and see what we find. Okay, now the Semi is targeted as a safer, high performance, and more cost-effective solution in the transportation industry. It can do 0 to 60 in 20 seconds when fully loaded with 80,000 pounds of cargo. It comes with enhanced autopilot to aid in driving and avoid collisions, while having a center driver's seat for improved visibility, and all of this comes with ranges from 300 to 500 miles depending on the version that you get, that is priced at either $150,000 or $180,000. And because they are electric, there are less parts to maintain compared to diesel engines, while also saving additional money on fuel. In fact, they claim that the Semi will provide over $200,000 in savings per million miles driven, with an estimated 2-year payback period. And as much as I hate the idea of truck drivers losing their jobs, I just really feel that the future of transportation, when looking at kind of heavy load transportation, is going to be autonomous, and there's really nobody ahead of Tesla when looking at that kind of specific area. So I think Tesla will probably play a big role in that. Now, it could definitely be, several years or even many years until we get regulatory approvals for there to be huge, autonomous trucks on the road. But I still think that that's the future that we're looking at over the long term. In any case, there is still no concrete date given on when the Semi will be released, but many estimate that it will go into production next year, given that Elon recently tweeted saying that he is excited to get the Semi into production. And it's looking like they were probably focused more on just producing the Model 3 and kind of ramping that up. And so now that we've kind of done that, maybe now they can start focusing on the Model Y and the Semi, and then eventually the pickup too. So there's going to be a lot of production to be handling, which it's kind of a scary thought, but hopefully Tesla can handle it. Now, I couldn't find up-to-date numbers on what companies are pre-ordering the Semi, but around 2 years ago when Tesla first announced the Semi, there were several reports listing some of the earliest customers to reserve the new truck, and among the list were giants like Walmart, Pepsi, Anheuser-Busch, FedEx, Cisco, UPS, DHL, and the list goes on with many more. Now, several of those ordered 100 or more trucks, but those numbers are still pretty small given that the truck was just announced at that time and there were only pre-orders available. But when you look at the market size, it's estimated to grow to over $160 billion by 2025 according to Global Market Insights. So if Tesla can capture a decent portion of that market, we could be talking about billions of dollars in added revenue for the company every year. And don't forget that Tesla can actually utilize these trucks themselves for transporting batteries, parts, and vehicles between factories and even to customers, as Elon frequently talks about the logistical costs that are very high for the company right now, but can be substantially lowered in the future. So that would not only drive further business for the Semi, but it would also help lower costs for Tesla as a company, which is kind of like killing two birds with one stone. So when I look at what kind of an impact the Tesla Semi can have on the stock, I really see nothing but positives based off of what we've seen so far. Obviously, time will tell, but I'm seeing a lot of potential upside here for the company and the stock. Okay, now it's time to finish up here with the Roadster. So let's just take a quick look at this one and see what Tesla is aiming to do here as well. Okay, now admittedly the Roadster is easily the least important vehicle that we talked about in today's video in terms of delivering high sales for the company, as it's really only aimed at the luxury / sports markets that here in the United States are only worth around 6% of the market, and globally it's even less at only around 1%. So it's not something that is going to move the needle for the stock much, if at all, given that the starting price will be $200,000, which is well out of reach for most people. However, what the Roadster does bring is notoriety, awareness, and credibility to the company, and that's because it shows off Tesla's technology, setting records in acceleration, range, and performance, doing 0 to 60 in just 1.9 seconds with a top speed of over 250 miles per hour and a range of over 620 miles. Now, if you're not familiar with cars, that is insane performance, especially for the price. Many cars with similar performance oftentimes cost around $1 million or more, so it's actually not that bad of a deal when you're considering what you're getting in return for the price. Still, the market for the Roadster seems to be pretty limited. Now, that's not to say that the Roadster can't still be a commercial success, and maybe we do see a few Roadsters on the road here and there, but overall I think the Roadster really serves the purpose of being kind of a proof of concept and just bringing more awareness and more kind of credibility to the brand and helping Tesla sell some of their more affordable kind of mass market vehicles as well. Anyway, that does it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And by the way, one thing that I didn't even mention was the fact that, you know, they could still launch a robotaxi fleet in the future, which if that ever comes true, then that does add some value to some of these vehicles as well. So it's maybe something to consider. Overall, I think Tesla does still have some issues as a company, but when I look at the risk-reward ratio as a stock, for me personally, I just feel like it's worth it for me. So that's just kind of my opinion. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. So make sure you leave your thoughts and comments down below. I'll try to respond to as many as I can. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.